As Sam said in the beginning of the show, and as Sam predicted a couple of weeks ago, there's been another extension in the deadline of this latest round of negotiations between Iran and the P5+1 in Europe. And I think, I mean, these negotiations are not only going to continue, but at this point, you still have like a year here, basically, where for the rest of Obama's presidency, and as long as the arrangement in Iran is still supportive of the approach of President Rouhani and the Foreign Minister Jawad Zarif, which it is right now, these negotiations are going to continue. So that means that even if there's extensions and pushing up, then these deadlines and extensions are arbitrary to begin with, right? They're self-imposed and obviously easy to shift and manage. So all the stakeholders want a deal. And that's just the clear baseline for this negotiation. And then it's just a question of hardliners in America trying to ruin it, hardliners in Israel trying to ruin it, hardliners in Iran trying to ruin it, hardliners in France, and hardliners in the Gulf states. Those are the different factions that want to ruin this deal. And what you notice is that a lot of the arguments against the deal with Iran always have to do with rhetoric. So people will point out, Iran supports Hamas and Hezbollah, or, a couple of tangible disagreements. I see you on the line, 502. I'll get to you in 1 minute. So there are these tangible arguments for not having a deal with Iran, but they actually really pale in comparison because the big rhetorical flourishes about Iran still go back to, well, supposedly Ahmadinejad said this about Israel. The supreme leader's at an event 2 weeks ago in his home city of Mashhad, and people are chanting death to America. And critics of the deal seize on this, and they say, look, this is the real nature of Iran. They're anti-American, they want to destroy America, they want to destroy Israel, and this is the bottom line. Actually, it's the opposite. And what my friend Kayvon Afshari and I argued in a new piece that we just published in Middle East Eye is actually that the more concessions that Iran makes in these negotiations, and don't make no mistake about it, they're making a lot of concessions. From their perspective, they're being more generous than the world powers are. Because in some respects, all we have to do is lift sanctions regimes, which they perceive to be illegitimate to begin with. And in return, what they're doing is basically inviting international scrutiny and presence in their country over their nuclear program, which has certainly never been clearly established to be a weapons program. It isn't necessarily a weapons program. And as signers of NPT, they are actually in their right to develop this technology. So from their perspective, they're making big concessions. Now, in order to sell that deal domestically, and in order to kind of keep the spirit of their revolution, which is incredibly anti-American, I mean, that's the founding texts of this country is anti-imperialist, anti-colonial influence, which America and Britain are the prime exemplars of. And America, through supporting the coup against Mossadegh, backing the Shah, backing Saddam Hussein when he attacked Iran, used chemical weapons. There's a lot of reasons why they think this way. So what you will see as this deal gets closer, I think what you will likely see, what Kayvon and I think you will likely see, is a lot more anti-American rhetoric as a strategy to solidify the base at home and circle this square, basically. So in other words, the diplomats are in Europe saying, okay, you can have more inspectors. We might concede on this. We might renege on that. At home, you're going to hear chants of death to America because you got to, in some ways, reconcile those impulses. And in some ways, just as I wrap this up, the supreme leader, when he endorsed these negotiations, Khamenei basically signed off on Zarif and Rouhani negotiating with the international community, he said in 2014, when he agreed to back it, he did it. He demonstrated the rhetorical strategy. He said, what our officials started will continue. In other words, the negotiations are going to happen. We will not renege. I have no opposition. So there's his backing. But I will say again, they are of no use. Don't dress up America and erase its past record of terror, violence, and ugliness. And so there's going to be a lot of this rhetoric to appease their own base at home the right and Israel and America and France will seize on it, and the Gulf will seize on it. But actually, you should probably read it as a positive sign that they're needing to scramble to make their own moves domestically as they get closer to a deal.